What's up, weirdos? What's going on, guys? All right, little afternoon live stream there, right? Mix it up a little bit, get the fries, it'll cross your eyes, little shakes to make you quake. See what's going on out there in the crypto land. How's everybody feeling? Hopefully good, good, good. Bitcoin's a little bit green. We got Cats McKitty over here in the house saying hey. She's gonna go. All right, guys, what's going on? Bitcoin sitting at $111,354. Looks like we are going to reject on the 100-day moving average at $111,768. Probably coming back down to test this orange line here, guys. Still very sick. At $108,225. Probably going to come down there and test that area. We'll see what happens. But how the heck is everybody? All right, let's get into it a little bit here. We got 0 super chats to start the live stream, so let's get into the chat. William, what's up, brother? Good to see you, man. King of Ohio, Jake the Snake in the house. Dump the markets, Roberto. Let's do it. Let's do it. DCA, man. Quentin, good to see you, buddy. EZ says, either way we go, I'm happy, camper, and stoked for the opportunity for life-changing wealth. Absolutely. Fridge, dropping that chatter, Rob. Appreciate all you do. Hit the like button, nerds, or else. Absolutely. I agree, brother. Or doom a plague on all your houses. Beebs, my dude. What's up, man? Watching on both channels. I appreciate you, brother. Guys, make sure you hit the like and subscribe. We got 142 people watching. We got 28 likes, guys. Hit the like button. Let's get to 100. Carlos, Roberto, when do we become millionaires, my brother? We need Swift to go to 20 to 30 cents. Probably about a week from Friday. Meredith, my guy. What's up, Pentelnex? Good to see you, man. Good to see you, brother. John, smash the likes. Blessings, my brother. Blessings. Carlos says, too many people are bearish, saying that we're going into a bear market. I have not heard anybody say that we're going into a bear market, but if by chance there is some lost soul out there telling people we're going into a bear market, I would say in response that person has absolutely no experience in a cycle whatsoever to be claiming we're going into a bear market, when every metric is showing that we're about to go parabolic in the near term. Not to mention the fact that we're about to see a rate cut. Anyone at this point broadcasting that we are going into a bear market right now is nothing short of an imbecile. Motivation Daily, what's going on? Glad you're feeling better, Rob. Like and subscribe. Join the Patreon, guys. Have a nice weekend, fam. Absolutely, guys. Listen, we have been absolutely crushing it in our trading group over on the Patreon, guys. We nailed a 1,400% return yesterday, closed out this morning, another 93% return, and an open trade I'm in right now, we are up 39.9% on the current open trade that we are in. If you are not in our trading group, you are definitely missing out, guys. Mario, what's happening, man? Hold my hand, senor. We're going to the moon. Dave, what's up, buddy? Good to see you, man. Let's freaking go. Beeb says, don't smoke Rob in the sack. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Absolutely. Hybrid Dad, the music sounds like it could be your walkout music for your comeback in wrestling. Nice. Yeah, no, I need a little Thunderstruck or a little Metallica. Carlos says, Rob is the best. I will follow this guy to the moon and back. I can't wait for the bear market so I can start buying whatever Rob is buying early. Absolutely, man. That's going to be fun. Jack stacked and fanny packed a brand new fresh portfolio in the bottom of a bear market. That's going to be a lot of fun as a community, guys. Johnny, XDB creator, posted at Gemini picture on X in Chicago. Maybe a clue to a U.S. exchange. That would be epic, brother. Crypto J505 in the house. What's up, man? Pam, please check Alluvium, please. Altcoin requests go in the goals tab at the top of the chat. But I'll be honest with you about Alluvium. I think that Illuvium is a good project, but it has definitely had better days behind it than are in front of it. It went parabolic last run. It should do okay, but I promise you this, it is definitely not getting back to $1,900 in this cycle. It's got phenomenal tokenomics. They haven't done anything, right? They haven't done anything since the last bull run. And the funny thing about it is, Illuvium is actually a really, really good-looking game, but their marketing sucks, right? You could have the best game in the world, but if nobody knows you have it, it's a fugazi. It doesn't exist, right? Over the top, what's up, man? Game Cast in the house. It's my birthday weekend, Rob. Let's get it. Maybe we can provide you with some DCA opportunities this birthday weekend, my friend. No, Junior, I did not start buying World Liberty Financial token. I think it's got lower to go. I think you're going to see it bottom out somewhere between 8 to 12 cents. That is probably where I would target for an entry point personally. Crypto Queen in the house. What's going on? Where you been? Hang in there, man. Zebek Miria hitting soon. Absolutely, Nicholas. What's up, big dog? Good to see you, man. DH Yo in the house. Matt got approved for a 2-week vacation on the 22nd of this month. Hope it's perfect timing. Let's hope, man. Fridge, hey Rob, how much lower can Supra go? I think Supra's pretty close to bottomed out, man. Remember, Supra had a little bit of a pump over the last week or so it's just kind of correcting from that. Jimmy, what's up, buddy? It's hanging. It's low and lazy, brother. Low and lazy. I'm going into the bear market with my buddy Winnie the Pooh for some jars of honey. Let's get it. I always give you a like. Is Jasmine in a falling wedge? Good luck with the stream. Is Jasmine in a falling wedge? No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it is not. One could argue that it is in a symmetrical triangle, though, which has about a 60% chance of a break to the upside. So I would argue that, yes. But there's a long way to go in this symmetrical triangle for Jasmine, though. So, a lot of road left on the daily time frame for Jasmine. So, in the symmetrical triangle, probably going to break to the upside. Ari, what's going on? Good to see you. Good to see a Big C in the house, Rob. I got my wife to start her own bag of Swift. It's a good day to have a good day. Absolutely, man. Let the bull run floodgates open. Pam, thanks. You're the best. Hey, no problem, Pam. I got you back. Rob, do you think we're going lower than 100K before we pump? I think the lowest we're probably going to go is 104, but I wouldn't be surprised if 106 held. That being said, 98 is definitely a worst case scenario in my opinion. But I don't think we would drop any lower than 104, to be honest with you. All right, let's get into the news, guys. Let's see what's going on out there this afternoon. First up on the docket, we got, bam, Trump's Media's CRO bet. 684.4 million tokens stored and staked with Crypto.com. Trump Media has finalized a strategic partnership with Crypto.com through the acquisition of 684.4 million CRO tokens. The asset will be securely stored and staked under Crypto.com custody, ensuring institutional-grade protection. This agreement demonstrates a major step connecting digital assets with traditional media enterprises. The decision adds significant volume to Crypto.com's custody platform, highlighting the role in exchanges in institutional adoption. Trump's Media gains both security and staking rewards by entrusting its holdings to a regulated provider. The structure also provides ongoing income generation from token staking. By integrating CRO into its portfolio, Trump Media strengthens its link to the wider blockchain ecosystem, and allocation represents a long-term commitment to holding and utilizing CRO. The move also enhances the utility of the token across Crypto.com's ecosystem. I remember when CRO reminted all of the tokens that they had destroyed, I think early in 2024. And so many people got upset about it. And look at them now, guys. CRO is next level, in my opinion, man. Next level. Beebs, Rob, I saw your recent Jasmy video, and I'm with you. Jasmy isn't going to $4 this cycle. However, I'd love to see 20 cents. Absolutely. Crypto JPEG, I joined the Pencil Neck Swingers today. Can't wait to see what dry powder we can make. Let's get it, man. The copy traders are crap. That's why everything is green. Thank you, sir. Carlos, no problem. CRO functions as a native token powering Crypto.com services, including trading, payments, and decentralized applications. The acquisition highlights confidence in CRO's relevance for both utility and growth. Staking the tokens amplifies their role in generating returns while supporting network activity. Trump's media large-scale purchase shows a clear strategy of participating in the blockchain economy. The focus on staking indicates a dual approach to security. It's definitely a positive thing to see the administration being involved in decentralized staking and stuff like that, guys, or centralized for this matter. Staking, which is very bullish for the rest of us who want to make passive yield in crypto. Very, very positive. This development underscores a merging of media influence and blockchain finance. The volume of tokens acquired reflects meaningful confidence in digital asset strategies. First Matt Damon, now Donald Trump. The partnership also adds momentum to the trend of corporate crypto integration. The acquisition reduces liquid CRO supply available on open markets. The lower supply often supports price resilience. So that's a lot less CRO tokens in circulation now. They've been taken out of circulation and staked inside the ecosystem, increasing the TVL for CRO. Very, very bullish. Ari, I didn't have a Swift bag, but when I saw it dip below 209, I had to take advantage. There you go. There you go. Good plan. Good plan. Let's get into a little bit of Squawk Box, as we always do about this time, guys. Don't forget, it's Open Mic Friday night over on the Patreon, hosted by our very own crypto mom, Ramona. A Fed interest rate cut is imminent, says JP Morgan's Santos.
Joining us right now to talk about the markets ahead of today's big jobs report, Gabriela Santos. She is JP Morgan Asset Management Chief Market Strategist for the Americas. She's like, and this is a big number. We got some hints yesterday with ADP coming in. Did that foreshadow anything for you? What are you expecting, and what do you think it means for stocks?
Yeah, so I think when we look at a whole mosaic of labor market data, it's really telling us that the labor market continues to cool. It's not cool. We're not seeing massive layoffs, no big spike in the unemployment rate to come, but very clearly there's been a cooling in the demand for labor. So tomorrow we expect about 85,000, which would really bring the average over the last 3 months to about 54,000. Similar message from the ADP, the Conference Board labor market differential. You could look at a slight increase in things like continuing claims. So really suggesting cooling, but not cool. I think the most interesting thing will be next week on Tuesday. We get the initial annual benchmark revision of hiring from March 2024 to 2025. And we think that will bring down the monthly average by about 50,000. So this cooling seems to have happened and started a bit earlier, and it's continuing. So imminent rate cut to come.
I was going to say, it feels like the Fed is a little more focused on the labor market side of things right now than inflation, because inflation, they've been waiting and waiting to see what happens. It hasn't gotten kicked into high gear by the tariffs as some people had expected. But the labor market cooling, that's got to be something that's catching their attention.
Absolutely. And I think it was that July jobs report with the lower revisions, over 254,000 lower revisions to May and June, that really for them brought into balance more the labor market and the inflation side of the equation, which Chair Powell laid out at Jackson Hole. So I think at this point, very well priced, of course, is that 25 basis point cut in September for a total at this point priced in of 60 basis points, getting rates to 3% by the end of next year. So unlikely to rock the boat.
Let me ask, the reason that they're focused on the labor market more means that the reason for cutting is not a great one. it's because we're worried about a slowing economy. How does the market read that? Because I don't think all rate cuts are delivered equally. If you're giving a rate cut because, hey, we just can, it feels like we're a little restrictive here. That's one thing. If it feels, and inflation's not out of control, if it feels like we're doing this because we're really worried that the economy is starting to slow down in a major way, that's a different story.
I think for right now, we're still in that sweet spot for equity markets of we're still restrictive policy. We're talking about another 100 or so basis points to get back to neutral, a 3 handle. So far, so good. Really insurance cuts. I think if we start to see more rate cuts priced in, because of a bigger slowdown in the labor market, then that's not necessarily something good for equities. The one thing I'm worried about, though, is over the last couple of months, you've seen a big rally in cyclical stocks. Here, anything that's very tapped into and geared to economic growth, consumer discretionary, home builders, small caps, and that we think is just a sugar boost.
Although the home builders, the retailers, the Home Depots of the world, they're going to get a boost from a rate cut, because that's going to bring down mortgage rates, and that's good news for all of them.
One of the things we're thinking about is we really only expect cash-like rates to move lower. A big theme this year has been curve steepening, and especially the last month has been a term premium increase, and especially the 530s by 30 basis points in August.
Meaning you think it's not going to bring down mortgage rates.
That's right.
It's only going to bring down the short end of the curve.
That's exactly it. So 1 year and below still has to come down 100 basis points over the next 12 months, but not the rest. So that's where we think for equities, we should really focus on structural, not cyclical.
Let's bring this back to the S&P 500 closing at a new high yesterday. Some people say, fantastic, this is momentum. You cannot fight this market. Other people who are really focused on risk assessment, wait a second, now it's a little riskier because prices are higher.
So I think
which camp are you in?
I think broadly constructive still. Companies are still surprising on the upside with earnings nearly double digits. There's been a healthy broadening out of returns.
So the price increases are deserved.
I think so. They're just that one area where we see a slight increase in cyclicals breaking out to new highs. That's the one area we think is short-lived. Otherwise, you've seen a broadening of the AI theme to other tech companies, industrials, utilities. That's healthy. That's sustainable. The other place I would put a structural is actually financials. It's not really a cyclical story. It's good enough for banks, but it's much more that other side of the regulatory cycle that's really exciting there. So overall, a healthy rally in equities. It's just that it becomes more muted from here. And then really we start increasingly favoring Europe, Japan, and EMX China.
There's so much uncertainty and mixed messaging in all the markets right now about which direction we're heading in. It's crazy. It's crazy. Angelo, anyone buying banker coin? Not this cat. DH, do you think blockchains that the government uses will have better performance in a bear market? No. Everyone keeps asking me about little stipulations that will make certain cryptos not suffer through a bear market. Every crypto is going to suffer through a bear market regardless of the situation, because bear markets are focused on liquidity. There's no money in the market. It all leaves. There's no money, right? So therefore, projects like XRP or whatever the project it is not going to not have a bear market because ETFs or because the government uses them or whatever the case might be. All that will do is it will increase, it will better their chances of surviving a bear market and thriving in it. They might not drop so terribly dramatically. However, they're still going to suffer a dramatic bear market because money leaves the markets, period, right? There's no money. That's the bottom line. Kathleen, hey Rob, I'm thinking about joining the swing trade tier, but I might switch to a lower one every other month. Yes, from my understanding, it is very, very simple to switch back and forth on tiers every month. It's very, very simple from what I understand. Shannon, what's going on? Wendy, what's up? Watching on Crypto Blueprint. There you go. Bruno, my guy, dropping the cheddar. Only the second super chat of the stream. Wow. Finally able to catch a live. I was talking to someone about crypto, and he said crypto is gambling. I'm just like, brah. Oh, yeah. You got to love those ones. The normies, right? The normies. Ben, thank God it's Friday. Thank God I can DCA. Absolutely. Amen to that, man. Super fantastic. Blessings, John. Good to see you, my friend. All right, what do we got? XRP ETF hype is real. Zamf's, whatever, I don't even know how to say that name. Zamf's latest post on X has shown fresh light on a topic rippling across, pun intended, I suppose, rippling across the crypto market, the rising demand for an XRP ETF. The discussion originated from a video conversation between Jay of Milk Road Daily and James Seifert, a senior ETF analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence, who shared insight on how XRP's products compared to peers such as Solana. Derivatives markets are often proving ground for institutional demand. The XRP appears to be passing the test. The CME, or the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, introduced Solana futures earlier this year, followed by XRP futures in May of 2025. Sorry. Seifert underscored this timing, noting, ironically enough, there's also leverage futures XRP and XRP products. They actually launched after the Solana product and had even more interest. That surge in activity suggests XRP's appeal extends beyond retail speculation. The surge in XRP futures volume and open interest shows that professional traders and funds are using derivatives to access the asset, potentially positioning themselves ahead of the introduction of spot products. While enthusiasm is building, Seifert was careful to temper expectations. Is also going to be a level of interest that a Bitcoin ETF launch had? Absolutely not. Like anyone who thinks like, oh, Bitcoin ETFs took in 40 billion, and that's where XRP maxis are really going to hurt a lot of people, because you know that if we got a spot XRP ETF, XRP maxis would be out there saying that, you know, the XRP ETF was going to see the exact same amount of volume as the Bitcoin one, and they just won't, right? They absolutely won't. Ethereum didn't. Solana didn't, right? The message is clear. Bitcoin remains the benchmark for institutional crypto inflows. However, Seifert emphasized that XRP belongs to a growing class of longer tail assets, but with real but more modest demand curves. In his view, ETFs tied to XRP and similar altcoins will not break records overnight, but they can still attract steady flows and secure positions in diversified institutional portfolios. I agree 100% with that, guys. A spot XRP ETF is not going to, blow the barn doors off like Bitcoin did, but it will still do very, very well, as will most other altcoins. So, yeah. All right, let's segue back over to some more on Squawk Box, guys. We got a little bit more there. It's chilling to have a president with this much power over private companies.
President Trump hosting tech leaders at the White House last night. CEOs included Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman, Tim Cook, and Satya Nadella, all around the table with the president praising him for his leadership and outlining plans for multi-billion-dollar investments in the U.S. Joining us right now is Congressman Ro Khanna of California's districts in the heart of Silicon Valley. You watched this. This was very much like a cabinet meeting where everybody went around in a circle and told the president how great he was. What did you think of that?
I was going to say the same thing. I couldn't tell if it was a cabinet meeting or if this was a tech CEO meeting. I mean, the flattery was over the top. They're scared. They don't want to be targeted with the tariffs. They don't want him to tweet something out about a DEI program. But here's the problem. They weren't honest with him. In private, they'll tell you they really have a problem with the tariffs that are on India and on Japan. They'll tell you they have a problem, as Bill Gates has said, about U.S. aid being gutted. They'll tell you they have a problem with the attacks on universities.
By the way, I think they'll tell that to him privately. They just won't tell him that around that table.
When you've got a photo op like that and you've been invited to a dinner, I can't think of any scenario where somebody, even a foreign leader, shows up and is super critical at a point when you've got the photo op and everybody's around. Those are more for showing off, like, hey, we're working together, we're building together.
Sure, they were critical of President Biden, though, in public and in private.
And they were meeting with him at the White House, probably. I would say I didn't see many meetings like this at the White House of tech leaders with President Biden.
He did meet with them. He met with them more in Silicon Valley than in the White House. But they would speak out to the press. I mean, they were critical of Lina Khan. They were critical of Gensler. They were critical of what they thought was regulation.
Yeah, but the only thing I would say is the setting last night, when you're in that setting, it's probably not one where you're going to be super critical. But I hear your point about being willing to speak out publicly about things when you're not actually sitting next to the president at the White House.
That's fair. I mean, look, if they wanted to be diplomatic at the White House, not go overboard, and then afterwards say, but we have a problem with the tariffs on India, we have a problem with the immigration crackdown, we have a problem with the attacks on universities, we have a problem with what he's doing to the NIH. And
well, some of them don't have a problem with the attacks on universities. Some of them think that there needed to be some things done, and I'm thinking of some people I've spoken with in the last couple of days. But I hear your point that they're a little more reluctant to say the things they don't agree with because they worry about the consequences.
And I do think that the big companies, Apple, Google, Microsoft, they have a problem with some of the attacks on the universities. There are people like Mark Andreessen or folks on the libertarian right in Silicon Valley who agree with some of the president on the universities. But the CEOs there, they recruit from these universities, and they certainly don't agree with what he's doing with mRNA and what he's doing with USAID. I would just hope they'd find their voice. In the first term, they found their voice after Charlottesville. This time, they really have not criticized the president publicly.
Why do you think that is? The retaliation fear?
The retaliation, look, the president's talking about putting tariffs on semiconductors. Now he's saying, okay, I'm going to exempt Apple. I'll exempt your company. If he puts huge tariffs and doesn't exempt them, their companies are going to suffer. If he targets them on social media, their companies are going to suffer. It's actually chilling that we have a president that has this much power over private companies. And I guess I don't understand why we don't have more Republicans actually saying, how are you allowing a president to have this much control over private companies?
Your concern is crony capitalism kind of working its way in, because I would say that there, under multiple presidents, that people have been afraid to speak up or say anything because what they're doing behind the scenes is always trying to look for influence. K Street is looking on the lobbying attempts to try and get their words in. This plays out a little more publicly than we've seen in previous administrations, but it's the same game.
I think this president is less hesitant, he'd probably say the public, to go after people that defy him. And there's a difference between trying to influence the executive branch, which I agree with you, they all try to do. They tried to do that under President Biden.
Every president in history that you can think of, since there have been business.
Yeah, but this is, look, the truth is.
I hear your point.
Look, I think that most of these CEOs, some of whom I've spoken to, not in the past 24 hours, but over the past couple of months, they would point to privately what happened to the law firms. They would point to privately what happened to the universities. They would point to now what happened to Intel. They would point to what's happening with NVIDIA and AMD. Yes, CEOs have always tried to influence the president and try to gain their favor, no question. But this is a very different situation because you did not have an activist CEO. I mean, some people are now describing the president as almost like a Carl Icahn kind of character in the White House.
I've also spoken with CEOs who say, hey, at least this administration is talking to us, which is the opposite of what I got from a lot of CEOs who felt like they were frozen out.
Sure. I think you can hold both ideas in your head at the same time.
Yeah.
But do you think, Becky, there's ever been a president in our lifetime who has instilled as much fear in the private sector?
No, probably not. The fear of getting called out personally, and whether that's business, whether that's other politicians.
Oh, but see, I think it's not just being called out. I think in the first Trump administration, it was being called out on Twitter. People didn't want to wake up and see their name on Twitter. Today, I think it's very different. I think it's not just being called out. It's, is the president, they look at the 60 Minutes example with Paramount.
Right.
They look at Disney example, and they say to themselves, it's not just that he's going to say I'm a bad CEO and some, it's that the company is, next time they want to do a deal, they're going to say, you know what, give me a VIG, or right. That's what we're talking about.
How is that different than what the Biden administration did to Elon Musk by saying we are going to write new legislation on electric vehicles? Where, first of all, Elon got mad he wasn't invited to the White House when they had this huge EV summit. But then the rules were written that basically wrote his company out and advantaged others that were union shops and that did things differently. I mean, that's also.
I know he's a guest, but I just want to, and I'm not going to defend that because I think that was one of the biggest mistakes of the Biden administration in terms of how they treated Elon
Musk. I agree
Musk.
with that, and I publicly criticized that at the time.
100%. But I think that the rationale for that was not because they believed that somehow Elon Musk was thumbing their nose at him personally. They believed, their view was that they were a labor union-oriented administration trying to protect the UAW, and they wanted more vehicles to be made by, and they were trying to advantage those type of companies. I'm not saying it was the right reason or answer, but I think the motivation is totally different.
There's more brass knuckles with this, but it's still the same story to me that people get frozen out by administrations. Look, this may be more personally driven.
And there's a risk that their company's stock could tank, that their shareholder value could tank if the tariffs are put in a certain way, if the president says, look, fire the CEO as he did on Intel. I mean, he really wanted to fire the CEO. We've never had that kind of interference. And I guess the question for business leaders is, what many of them say is, we're just going to duck under the table. The pendulum swings. Eventually, the Democrats will come back. But
Ro, don't you think that actually, I mean, from a very just practical perspective, because people say to me, and as I'm sure they say to everybody at this table, you know, if they believe that this is a problem, why aren't they standing up and raising their hand? And I think that they're trying to play the long game, because if you raise your hand right now and say, I hate this, I don't like the president, I don't like what he's doing, there may be no opportunity to play the long game. Meaning you will end the game right now because something will happen potentially that could injure your ability down the road to even exist.
I guess my question is, what would you have them do?
Well, first of all, I would have.
By the way, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I think it's actually a bad scenario that that setup even exists.
First of all, I think they shouldn't underestimate their own power. I mean, in my district, you have 5 companies over $1 trillion, $14 trillion of value. East of the Mississippi, there's one company close to $1 trillion, JP Morgan. These folks have been, they're driving the American economy. They're driving our GDP. The president of the United States cannot just sabotage wealth generation. They have enormous influence and power. And what I would say is get together as a group, like you did after Charlottesville, and come out with some broad principles of things that you know are hurting America on tariffs, on immigration policy, on anti-science policy, on the attacks on the private sector, and there's safety in numbers. And
that's a collective action issue, though. I mean, you really need, it's a collective action issue, meaning you effectively need, this goes to the Chamber of Commerce, this goes to the Business Roundtable. You need a collective group of these people to do that in unison, because nobody's going to do it. Not even 10 of them will do it together.
I think you need business patriots, or people like Bill Hewitt, David Packard, Andy Grove. There were leaders who said, yes, I have a commitment to my company, but I have a commitment to the country. And I'm hoping, and they did this after Charlottesville. I mean, you had a lot of business leaders come out and say, no, they're not fine people on both sides. And the question is why.
By the way, that's a bad example in retrospect if you watch that tape.
Okay,
but continue on.
But my point is, actually, whatever you think of that incident, those business leaders did come out afterwards.
They did.
And many of them dropped out of his CEO councils. You have not heard a single criticism of this president. And that should be chilling. And I
think that's a matter of time, because you don't hear it from Republicans who may not agree with everything he does either. This is, what, 9 months now into this administration almost. Do you think that changes over time? I will also tell you, you hear some of these CEOs who like some of the things he's doing.
Sure.
They're afraid to be critical of the things they don't like. But do you think that changes over time?
It's changing. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene gave me a hug yesterday at a press conference. She was there with Thomas Massie on the Epstein file, and you have 4 Republican members of Congress on that issue willing to break. Don Bacon is willing to break on the coffee tariff and some of the tariff policy. It's slow, but look, I had no problem. I criticized President Biden. A lot of these tech leaders criticize President Biden. Do I grant that Trump has done certain things that I disagree with, but tech leaders like that he has less regulation? I disagree with them. They like that. Fine. They want to praise him on that. But the fear here is that you have no criticism in a democracy.
He lost me when he said that Trump's not facing any criticism. Trump eats criticism for breakfast. He literally, if he wipes his ass sideways, he gets criticized for it, okay? There is nothing that that man does on a daily basis that is not put under a microscope and scrutinized. So this guy to say he's not criticized or anything, I don't know what planet this guy's living on, but it sure as hell isn't the same planet that I'm living on, I'll tell you that much. Big Kev, man, what's up, buddy? Thanks for everything. The M2's testing all-time highs a few times today. Let's hope it breaks out soon. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. Bruno, we appreciate all the work you do for this channel, Rob. Hey, absolutely. Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. Ryan, are we ready? The world's biggest bull run ever seen is unfolding right before your eyes. Amen to that. Light Warrior says smash the like button. Show some love to Rob. We might need a house hippo. We might need a house hippo. I think we played the house hippo this morning, didn't we? Or was that last night? Blessings, John. Good to see you, my friend. Carlos, how do you think the BTC dominance needs to drop to start seeing a full altcoin season round? Probably below 50 anyways, 45%. Paul, good to see you, man. Jake the Snake, King of Ohio, the guest outed his bias. The fine, yeah, I agree. All right, guys, so Bitcoin looks like it's making another run at the 100-day moving average. Can it close above? Well, you've got about 3 hours and 2 minutes left to find out. So we'll see what happens. It is open mic Friday night over on the Patreon, guys, like I said. Ramona will be hosting that, our very own crypto mom, so be there at 9:30 p.m. Central. And guys, listen, we're crushing it on our trading group over on the Patreon as well. Our current open trade, we are up right now 48% and climbing. Jump aboard, guys. Join our Copy Pro Trading and our Swing Trading group today. The link is in the chat. It's in the pinned comments. It's in the description. Cody dropping that cheddar. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much, man. All right, guys, I got to get out of here. I got some stuff to do. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless.